Welcome into the Everyday Fantasy Footballers podcast with your hosts, Jay Marsh, Andrew, and Ben. Please follow us on X at everyday_FF or JMarshFFB. We're going to get straight into it today with breaking news. Ben, let's hear about JJ McCarthy, some big news that just came out this week.
Yeah, kind of random. For a lot of us sitting by our phones, just sitting there after a pretty solid week one. JJ McCarthy, I saw it on Facebook on NFL memes. Looks like he's going to be out for quite a while. At first, it was a undiagnosed knee injury, and then as details emerged later in the day, they found that I'm not sure if it happened in practice or if it was from the game over the weekend, but I guess he screwed up his meniscus in his leg pretty bad, and they're gonna go ahead and do a full knee surgery to fix that meniscus up. And they don't have a timeline for, at least last that I didn't see it, they didn't have a timeline for how long he might be out, but they're talking it's a pretty big knee surgery, so he is out indefinitely. That is the status on JJ McCarthy.
Yeah, that was, like you said, that was so unexpected. Like, I didn't know anything happened to him, and I saw that. And that's huge implications, honestly, not only for, the dynasty JJ McCarthy owners or the people drafting him late in, redraft, but honestly, for Justin Jefferson, man, like, I didn't really want to draft him this year anyways because of the quarterback situation with it being rookie or Sam Darnold, but that just makes me really not want a piece at all of the Vikings.
Yeah, no,
I don't know where you guys sit on that.
And it makes me not want Justin Jefferson. It makes me not want Jordan Addison. It makes me not want TJ Hawkinson. It makes me want nobody. Like, I'm out.
Yeah.
What about Aaron
That
Jones?
is, very concerning to me. Yeah. If anything, that actually rises his stock for me for that. Because
it does. But like, how many
not
times?
A lot.
How many times have you picked a running back because you're like, oh well, this team can't throw the ball, so like he'll get a lot of touches. Yeah, he gets a lot of touches, but then he averages like 2.5 yards. So it's like, I don't know.
Yeah. It was really weird to me too that Aaron Jones went to a rival, in-division rival to the Vikings. He's pulling that Brett Favre, I guess.
They didn't pay him.
No, they didn't. But honestly, I feel like the past few years he's been injured a few times. He just hasn't really produced where the levels he was. 3 years ago when we had us three are all in the Dynasty League together. I picked Aaron Jones in the second round. Thought it was great, and I ended up trading him that first year, and I'm glad I did because he really hasn't done anything. Yeah, there you go. You got him.
Yeah,
but I think it increases his stock a little bit. Maybe he goes a half round higher. I don't think it's going to be anything dramatic.
Yeah.
But if there is a piece of that offense I want, it would probably, in my opinion, that's what I would do. I'd probably want Aaron Jones. But besides that, I'm kind of out on all the wide receivers. Like I said, even with JJ McCarthy or Sam Darnold, I was already out on them anyways, but just makes it, just really helps me make my decision even easier.
Well, I think once they scope it, they've said that they're going to have like a clearer picture of how long he's going to be out, because it could just be like a trim versus like a full-on like rebuild. If it's a rebuild, he's out for a very long time. But if it's just a trim, it could be like 3 to 4 weeks.
Yeah.
So you never know.
Yeah, for sure. Well, let's move on to the next really big one. Impacts, unfortunately, my Kansas City Chiefs, Hollywood Brown. Crazy. I don't know if you guys saw this, but he had the exact same injury that Tyreek Hill had in 2019 against the same team on the same field. And I saw a video today too. It was really weird. Whenever Tyreek Hill injured himself on that field in 2019, they switched over to another game, and it was Hollywood Brown making a catch.
Oh my God.
Really weird. Yeah, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I just thought that was really odd. But yeah, that's a weird injury. So he's just reports today mentioned probably week 3 of the regular season is his timeline on returning, maybe sooner, but I'd as a Chiefs fan, as a fantasy football fan, I'd rather him wait till week 3. Like he's going later in drafts anyways, so it's not like he's an early round pick where that's going to hurt your team in the first few weeks. So I think that's pretty big implications, and I think that helps if you're looking at Rashee Rice or you're looking at Xavier Worthy. That boosts their stock up a little bit, especially for redraft right now. just because people want players that they can play right away, and you can't play Hollywood, honestly.
I agree.
So, I don't know where you guys' thoughts are on this, because I'm personally out on Chiefs receivers. You saw it last year. Mahomes is going to spread the ball around. Honestly, only Chiefs players I'm fully in on are Mahomes and Isaiah Pacheco. But the receivers, even Kelsey, they're just going to spread around too much. And it's not going to be that consistency that I personally want to see in those on a receiver. So that's where I'm at anyways. But, I just kind of want to see what you guys thought.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you, Jay Marsh. I mean, it's a blow to when you're talking about just a season. And the players all around it is a blow to that Chiefs offense just because he's a veteran guy. Rashee Rice, I'm not convinced yet that he's the real deal. I mean, you could put anybody in that offense with Patrick Mahomes and they look incredible. Just being honest, but Hollywood Brown scared a lot of people.
MVS, I don't know.
Minus the few exceptions from
Kadarius
last
Toney.
season. Minus the few exceptions from last season.
That's a prerequisite.
But
True.
and not line off offsides, But no, I mean, I think what you said, though, there's going to be a lot of love spread around. If anything, it makes me more confident, and it kind of sucks for him, but it does make me more confident in drafting Pacheco or Kelsey, just because I think they were Mahomes' two most reliable guys last year. So if he doesn't have faith in the rookies or Rashee Rice is getting doubled up off the line, I think it's going to be Kelsey and Pacheco getting a big majority of the share. But knowing the Chiefs, it's gonna not really matter because they're just gonna plug somebody in at that slot position, and they'll be fine.
They're the new New England Patriots for me. I kind of stay away from the Chiefs in general when it comes to fantasy football. I mean, I think if I were to draft anybody, it would either be their defense or Mahomes. I think this year, I think we talked about it a little bit last week, but even Kelsey's a little scary now. He's just coming off a little banged up recently, and I don't trust him as much as I used to. So I'm still staying away from the Chiefs. This really doesn't change anything for me.
Yeah, and I agree. That's what I said. I'm out on all the wide receivers and tight ends for the Chiefs. Like I said a minute ago, I'm all in on Pacheco. I have him on a dynasty team. I want him on a redraft. End of the day, like, dude literally runs through walls. You've seen, everyone listening seen the memes, like those. That dude does not stop. But kind of going back to what we're talking about Zamir White last week, those miles are going to add up, man. Like he's had some injuries in the playoffs and broken ribs and I think something with his like shoulder or his wrist or something like that. So like that worries me a little bit towards like playoff time when it comes to fantasy football. Like, is he still going to be holding up there? Is he going to get a break, or is his workload going to go down a little bit if he's getting injured? But starting the season, yeah, I'm in on Pacheco. I'm in on Mahomes. Mahomes is interesting though for fantasy football. I was looking at some stats, and it's crazy. Like week 1 through I think 9 or 10, dude's on fire. Great fantasy football player. And then this happened, I think, the past 2 years, something like similar numbers. And then his weeks 10 through 18 are just, where are you, dude? Like he had 7 top 10 finishes, top 10 QB1 finishes in the first part of the season. And the second half of the season, he only had 1. So
why is that weird?
I don't know.
I think
you saw there's a lot of drops.
Yeah. I think the other thing of where it comes from is the past couple of years, he gets banged up throughout the season, but he's a tank. Like he continues to play, but like you see with that ankle, it's like he was nursing that ankle like the last 5 games of the season and then going into the playoffs too. And then the other thing too, and you talk about this not just with Mahomes, but also those powerhouse teams, you do got to be very careful of drafting people like that because we're starting to see it more and more, especially with the elongated season. Week 16 and 17, if they've got a playoff slot locked up, you might not see Jalen Hurts in the playoffs. You might not see Patrick Mahomes in your play. Like you might, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but there's a good chance that you start to see some of your starters not have as much playing time just to avoid injury.
Yeah, exactly. And that's, I literally lost a fantasy league. Andrew, you might have been there. I think you were in the league at that point where I had Dak Prescott. I benched him because all the reports are saying, hey, he's sitting out. Doesn't matter if they win the next 2 weeks. That's their spot. They're not going up or down. So I benched him for freaking Zach Wilson. But Zach Wilson was doing good. He's playing a crappy team. And if I would have started Dak Prescott, I would have won by like 30 points. But Zach Wilson got me like 5 points that week. So it is a real thing. The Chiefs are in an easy division. They are. I'm sorry, Ben. But Broncos, the Raiders, the Chargers, they're in one of the easiest divisions in football, at least as we can kind of predict right now. But you're going to have the Ravens. You're going to have the Dolphins. There's some teams that are going to maybe the Bengals. Honestly, maybe even the Steelers if this Ayuk thing that we'll talk about soon happens. Like there's some teams that could compete to be that number one seed, and Chiefs want that number one seed. So I don't really worry about the end of the season right now, especially with Mahomes. Like he's a player that's going to give you a lot of points. He's going to be the one that typically is going to help you get to that playoff. But it is concerning seeing the past few seasons him have a kind of a down, not a massive downfall. He's not killing your team, but he's not helping it either. So just something to be concerned about. And he is going in the earlier rounds. So just think about that when you're drafting quarterbacks this year. But I want to go kind of the next player here. Big news, Brandon Ayuk. It's been the talk of the town for us, I feel like 3 weeks now. There's finally a deal on the table for him to get traded to the Steelers. First reported, by the way, by some dude that's awesome on X. His name is Ricky. Dude is not one of the big ESPN insiders, but he is, he's breaking a lot of this news out prior to all these big guys coming out. So I wanted to give some, tip my cap to that guy. He called this a few weeks ago. But yeah, I think this is awesome because Ayuk is going in like the second round and he has Deebo Samuel. I just don't, when I draft one of my top like first few rounds when I get a wide receiver, I really want to get somebody that's the guy on the team.
Mm-hmm.
San Francisco has Kittle, you have CMC, you have Deebo Samuel, and then you have Ayuk. I know Ayuk had a great year last year, but you can't always base your players' stats and where they're going to end up based off of just last year's numbers. If you do that, you're never going to win fantasy. So I'm excited him going to the Steelers because Steelers, besides George Pickens, don't have anyone. If Ayuk goes there, he's wide receiver one, no doubt. It sucks if you are a George Pickens owner. Sorry, Andrew, another trade I made. You have George Pickens in our Dynasty League, but I'm excited about this. I'm a lot more confident in drafting Ayuk now in the second round. If I'm at that turn or he falls in my lap and there's really nobody I want to take, I'm a lot more confident personally drafting Ayuk. Where are you guys at with him?
I like him. I think it definitely helps his draft stock, but I don't know, man. As a former Broncos Let's Ride, dude, if you got Russ leading that offense, you're not going to get a lot of, he might have a game or two that he goes off, but Russ is not going to be feeding him the ball as much as Brock Purdy was, in my opinion. Maybe Justin Fields was, but it just scares the crap out of me with Russ as his QB because I don't think Ayuk is if you look at Russ, and it really depends on who's starting for them, but if you look at where Russ has been successful in his career, he is successful with those big, tall corners who can, like Cortland Sutton, Tyler Lockett. And I just don't think Ayuk's play style is the same. I think he's a little shiftier, a little speedier. And I'm worried
he's only 6 foot.
Yeah,
wait a minute. Did you just say Tyler Lockett is tall?
He is tall, isn't he? Or
no,
not?
Tyler Lockett.
Well, no,
tiny.
sorry, not Tyler Lockett, but
Are you thinking DK Metcalf?
Not DK Metcalf, but not even tall. But he needs a wide receiver that is gonna be able to go and get the ball and make that play. And I was talking about Tyler Lockett because at that point in Russ's career, he still had the arm to beat out that cornerback and put the ball placement, where I just don't think he has that arm anymore. You watched it with a receiver. To give you an example, Jerry Jeudy. Jerry Jeudy was running miles past the corners, and he was 10 yards open. And Russ would not see him. He couldn't see him in the pocket. He couldn't hit him in the pocket. He couldn't hit him overhead. It's like the only person he could find is Cortland Sutton, and I don't think if he's not going to be one of those in the corner, go up and get it end zone type of guys, that does scare me in terms of his production from, I think he's going to be exactly like Cortland Sutton last year. He's going to have flashes. He's going to have some good games of 15 to 20 points, but I think that's all you're going to get out of Ayuk.
I agree with you from the Russell Wilson standpoint that I I kind of forgot about Russell Wilson. He scares me a little bit. Yeah, he's a shorter quarterback, but looking at the players that Russell Wilson used to throw to, Doug Baldwin, DK Metcalf's
That's
obviously
who I
a
was thinking
different
of. Doug
species,
Baldwin.
but
That's who I was thinking
yeah,
of. Doug Baldwin.
but Doug Baldwin's 5'10". He throws to these small receivers, so the receiver size that I don't care about that. But the way I kind of disagree with you, Ayuk is not a Cortland Sutton. Cortland Sutton's, he's honestly on the older side now. Ayuk is young. Dude has been a stud since he's been in the league. He's just had injury problems. And I personally think Ayuk, if he goes to the team, I don't care what quarterback's throwing to him. He's kind of like, going back to me being worried about Justin Jefferson. We're not worried about Justin Jefferson's abilities. We're worried about the quarterback play. But when you are a player like that, you are going to make plays. Is he going to be super consistent? Justin Jefferson going to be super consistent like he always is? Maybe not quite as much. And I kind of have that same feeling as Ayuk. I think he's going to have a good season. I think he's going to be consistent, but not consistently, like his ceiling's not going to be as consistently high as he used to. But I think he's going to be a pretty solid receiver. He'll probably end up as a wide receiver too, which isn't terrible. And if Russell Wilson performs like he did in the Seattle days, then he's going to be wide receiver 1, and you're going to be like, man, I made an awesome pick. So that's the kind of hard part for me. I think Ayuk's going to be a lot better than the Cortland Suttons and the Jerry Judys. He's just a better player than those guys.
Fantasy Pros has him at what? Let's see, 18 wide receiver. No, sorry, 16 overall in wide receivers, and an average ADP of 16. So I don't know. I mean, I think he's more valuable than that now. Like at this point, I'm always looking at target share. Like on San Francisco, you have, like you said, you have CMC, Kittle. They have a disgusting amount of talent on that team, and
his target share is going to rise, man. It's going to rise with the Steelers. So even if the quarterback play is terrible, he could get 12 to 17 targets a game, and man, if he catches 8 of those with over 80 yards and maybe a touchdown, like that's a good week, man. Like I personally think he's going to be fine.
I think he's looking at 30% target share probably. And
easily.
What was he in San Francisco? Probably 20, maybe.
Maybe 20. Well, last year was a different year. He had a really good year, so I don't want to count that.
Yeah, maybe.
Kind of discount that. But
on the other side,
also you have Najee Harris looks slow, so you don't have to worry about the running back getting a lot of passes. Like they're going to get some, but I'm in on Ayuk. I think just him going to Steelers further solidifies my thoughts on him. I do, like I said, Ben, I agree with you. I'm a little worried about Russell Wilson, but Russell Wilson has the talent. He's not Sam Darnold, who doesn't have any talent at all. Sorry, Sam, if you're listening, but he has the talent. He just, honestly, I think sometimes there's players get in bad situations. They get on a team that they just don't mix well with. They get a coach that just they just don't mix. End of the day, that just doesn't work out. And I think that's kind of where Russell Wilson was. I think he's getting a fresh start here, and I personally hope he does great, because I think it's going to be great implications for fantasy if he does. So,
still upset that we're paying that contract. We're paying $85 million. But on the other side of the table, though, what does that do? We haven't talked about this. What does that do for Debo's draft value? Does that kind of skyrocket him or way up? Yeah, right. Because CMC is still going to get a lot of looks. Kittle, but Kittle's had some injury problems in the past couple of years, so it's.
He always has. I think that skyrockets Kittle's and Debo's. That move, maybe not skyrocket. That moves them up for sure, because they're going to get, then you have that rookie wide receiver coming in who.
And then I think they have Jawan Jennings is like their number 2 now behind Debo. So.
Debo, yeah, that moves them up, both Kittle and Debo up for me. I don't think it's like, best things since sliced bread or anything like that, but it definitely moves them up in my books. When I was doing some mock drafts here this past week, I was picking Debo over Ayuk. Debo he's the one who got paid.
That's not crazy.
I'm following the money.
No, that's not crazy.
So that's kind of where I'm at. So that just makes it easier. And, going back to my mock drafts, I'm like, okay, I got Debo. Okay.
Debo's more versatile too. Like, they'll throw him in the back.
Dude's a running back. He's a receiver. He's freaking everything. So I'm pumped about that. I want to go to our next kind of breaking news, which nothing we have to talk about too long, but for anyone on the Sleeper platform, which I converted Andrew and Ben both to Sleeper. By the way, I did it mid-season for mine and Andrew's league. Big fan of Sleeper, and they did this awesome thing. So when there are fantasy football players who just don't pay attention Sunday mornings, I think this is huge. Sleeper now has an auto substitution. So when you have a Saquon Barkley or a George Kittle, people that have had injuries and last minute they're out and you're not paying attention, you're in church or you're out to eat and you don't pay attention to your phone, you can essentially tag a person on your bench, a running back, tight end, whatever, to that player. So if they get marked out last minute, they automatically get moved up. So I think that's huge. I think that makes it more competitive because sometimes you play players. Like, it's awesome when you play someone that's not checking their team. Like, that's great. Okay, easy win. But at the same time, I like competitive leagues. I don't like leagues that people don't play and things like that or don't pay attention. So I think this further solidifies leagues being more competitive. So I'm pretty pumped about that.
Yeah. No, that's an awesome feature that they added.
And then, and last piece of news, which going back to the Steelers again, Martavis Bryant, who used to be a Pittsburgh Steeler, just got signed with Washington Commanders, correct? Yeah, Washington Commanders. Dude's been gone for 5 years. I don't think this changes my mind. I'm not drafting him by any means. It does give what's his name, Jayden Daniels, another target. Like, dude wasn't really, like, he had some crazy games in fantasy, from what I remember. So, like, that guy has a talent, but he's older now. He's been out of the league for a while. So it's, what is he going to actually do? Is this going to have any fantasy implications? My personal thought, I don't think so. But
I agree.
Just something we wanted to bring up on the show, just so if you're looking, have your last pick in the draft and you don't see anyone you want, you just want to take a random shot at Martavis Bryant just because of what he's done in the past, go ahead, but nothing crazy in my book. Cool. Well, hey, our next section, something new we're doing on the show, what we're calling Locked and Loaded. Really, just us giving you guys thoughts on player, doesn't matter where they're drafted. They're drafted last round, first round, 7th round, whatever. Someone for sure is locked and loaded, going to be a great fantasy player, going to be an asset for your team, and is someone you know for sure is going to go off unless they have an injury. That's like only kind of caveat. So, Andrew, I want you to kind of go over your locked and loaded pick and, why did you choose him?
So my guy is going to be Amon-Ra St. Brown. I mean, I know he's a very well-regarded wide receiver. I know that his ADP is fairly high, but I feel like the guy is a lock for kind of the reason we were just talking about with Ayuk. It's just target share. Like, Jameson Williams will probably steal a few from him this year, give or take, but it doesn't scare me. Like, overall, I'm still thinking, that's a high-powered offense. There haven't really been a lot of changes to that offense, or at least not any negative changes. The coaching staff has stayed the same. Like, Jared Goff is Jared Goff. Love him or hate him, like, he's going to throw the ball to that guy, probably 4 or 5 times out of 10 on every single passing play. And Amon-Ra St. Brown, like forget all the target share stuff. He's a disgustingly good wide receiver too. I mean, he hasn't had like any of the really, really crazy highlight catches that like AJ Brown or Justin Jefferson have had. But what he does really well that those guys tend to not do is he plays the slot really well. He plays really strange, like jet sweep style plays really well. Like, he'll do some stuff that those guys just aren't capable of doing, or maybe their offensive coaches just don't put him in those situations. But either way, like, that dude is just always involved. And that's why I want him. It's just touches and honestly talent.
Yeah, he has a talent. If anyone's seen the show Wide Receiver or Receiver, whatever, dude has a crazy work ethic, which is awesome to see. That man wants to play ball. Like you said, he's really versatile all over the field, and he's not one of those players that's only good in fantasy, doesn't look good on the field. Dude looks amazing on the field. He's great at fantasy. And like you mentioned, pretty much the only people hogging up targets from him, Sam Laporta, which he's not really hogging up the type of targets that he's going to get anyways. Like those are designed plays to Sam Laporta. So Jameson Williams, your only kind of person that might take some stuff from you, which Jameson Williams, man, like that dude was one hell of a prospect out of college. I was pumped about him, but I think he was involved in that gambling thing, and got suspended 6 games and came back. He just really didn't have anything crazy. He hasn't shown me anything in the NFL that makes me say, "Oh, I'm not going to take Amon-Ra because of him." No, not at all. Like he's 100%. He's locked and loaded, and he's going to be one great receiver this year. And he's someone that if he falls to me, if I'm later on in the first round, 100%, let's take him. Cool. Well, Ben, let's hear your locked and loaded pick.
Yeah, my locked and loaded guy here is going to be Travis Etienne. I mean, he's been in the league a couple years now. Rookie year, caught some people's attention. Sophomore year, started to have some, very key moments in some key games. And then last year was just a crazy year for him. I'm looking at his stats right now. You got weeks where he's got 21, and then weeks 5 through 8. He had 36 points, 23 points, 22 points, 25 points. And you look at some other key categories with him, his snap percentage is among the highest of wide receivers. He's got 80%, 85, 83, 88. He's leading in terms of rushing attempts per game. He's getting 18 touches, 20 touches, 26 touches, 24 touches. And then more importantly, if you're in a PPR with him too, he gets receptions. I mean, I know we talked about this last week a little bit, but Trevor Lawrence doesn't have the weapons that he had last year, some key departures on that offense. But last year just alone, week 1 targeted 5 times, 5 receptions. Week 3 targeted 5 times, 4 receptions. Week 4 targeted 5 times, 4 receptions. So he's good for not only the rushing, but also he's going to get you some receptions as well. And then also too, he's a touchdown machine. I mean, if they get it within the 5, I can guarantee you they are either going to go a running play with ETN. They're going to do a little halfback
or
wheel
Evan
route,
Ingram.
or Evan Ingram. Those are the 3 players. If they're on the 5, I am calling it right now. One of those plays is going to happen.
Yeah, let's just hope last year they tried putting in Tank Bigsby, that rookie running back, who seemed promising, but dude fumbled the ball. He just looked awful. So I think they kind of already lost confidence. I know Doug Peterson had mentioned that they're going to lighten Etienne's workload this year, but if anything, I think that's good because Etienne is a smaller back. He started his NFL career with a crazy injury, didn't even get to play his first season, but dude, he's a stud. He's one of those CMC-like running backs. He actually came out, I think it was last year. It's like you either play like CMC and get paid or you don't. Like, because that was that big thing with all the running backs, like threatening not to work because they weren't getting, or, report because they weren't getting paid. Like he said some sort of comment like that. And in the day, because he's not CMC. He isn't. No one is. But he has that's the type of player he is. He's a pass catcher. He's great with that. He's a great running back. He's speedy. He's fast. He gets touchdowns. So, yeah, I mean, I'm in on Etienne as well. I've gotten him in a lot of mock drafts. I'd be very happy as having him as my RB1, or if you do the running back strategy, get him in, CMC, or get him in Bijan Robinson. You are set.
Would you take him over Jahmyr Gibbs? What about Kyren Williams?
Yes.
Those 2 are ahead of him, and I'm like kind of torn. I actually might take him over both.
I would take
Jahmyr
him
Gibbs
over
is banged
both
up
of them.
now too.
Jahmyr Gibbs, and they've also they still have Montgomery on the Lions? Is he still there?
Yeah, he is.
Because he ate into Jahmyr. Jahmyr Gibbs would have been running back 1 last year, if like every single week, if it wouldn't have been for Montgomery.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah. I mean, Kyren, dude, like I mentioned last week, I hit the waiver wire like jackpot last year getting Puka and Kyren and CJ Stroud in some of my leagues. But I love Kyren a lot this season. Yeah, he got injured a few times, but he came back and was a killer. But they did draft that dude from Michigan who's a freaking stud. What's his name? Blake Corum.
Yeah.
Worries me a little bit Not too much, though. I think it's honestly just to lighten his load a little bit. So, but with that meaning, he's not gonna repeat what he did last year, in my personal opinion. I think Kyron's good, but I'd pick Etienne over him. Jameer Gibbs and him and Etienne are very close in my book. I think Jameer Gibbs is a better running back, but like Andrew said, he is banged up right now. And there are some weapons on the Lions like Amon-Ra and Laporta and maybe Jamison Williams. So, there's less weapons on the Jaguars. So yeah, I mean, if it comes down to it, yeah, maybe I would probably pick Etienne.
What scares me about Kyron Williams, and I don't know if I'm the only one who thinks this, but it scares the hell out of me to draft a Rams running back that had a crazy, crazy season the year before. Just because you look at it, I mean, we remember
what they've done
Gurley,
before. Yeah, running backs always do good on the Rams.
Cam Akers, look, I draft Cam Akers in our league, and I used my second round pick because at the time it was kind of the same thing with Kyron. It's he had a really good season last year, he's going to be amazing, and then he just he kind of fell off. So I don't know, that's probably just me, but I am terrified of drafting any Rams wide running back because I think that there's somebody right around the corner to take their starting job.
I agree with you. I don't think them taking starting jobs the thing, but they remind me of the San Francisco 49ers and quarterbacks. Niners, just the system. Like Brock Purdy, I'm sorry, my opinion. You put him on another team. You put him on the Panthers. You put him on the Bucks. You put him on these teams. Don't think he's as good as he is on the 49ers. Every quarterback that goes to 49ers is pretty freaking good end of the day, and they produce. The Rams, same way at running back. You had Gurley.
To a freaking Super Bowl, and he almost won it.
Yeah, exactly. So, but the Rams was a similar thing with running back positions. They're kind of plug and play. Gosh, I forgot that guy's name. That was a running back. Dude was awesome. And this was after the Gurley days, and he just got signed off of waivers or something. Came in, and he was awesome. So I feel like they're really big. Do you know what I'm talking about? Jarrell Henderson. That's his name. Jarrell Henderson. Dude was great. He's a great fantasy running back, and same with Kyron. Kyron just came in and took over the job. So yeah, could Blake Corum do that? Yeah. Is that going to happen? Probably not, unless Kyron gets hurt. But yeah, go back to you're locked and loaded. Travis Etienne. Yeah, I agree. Dude is going to be good this year. He's proven that, and yeah, I'm in on him. Kind of switching gears, go to my locked and loaded pick. A little bit later on in the draft, but I'm thinking quarterback here, CJ Stroud. He's on a definitely high flying Houston Texans offense. He's got Stephon Diggs, Nico Collins, Tank Dell, Dalton Schultz at tight end, and you have Joe Mixon. That's just a recipe for success. I think he's going to be amazing this season. He's probably going to be my keeper pick in the league me and Andrew are in. He's just one of those players where he did great last year with just Tank Dell and oh my gosh, Nico Collins. I think they're all going to have great seasons. He has even more targets to throw to. So would I take those receivers? I'm kind of iffy on actually taking the receivers because the fact that there are so many weapons, I'm a little worried about taking somebody on that team. But if I'm going to take someone on the Texans, I'm going to take CJ Stroud. He's not the most mobile quarterback. He's not the Josh Allen or the Jayden Daniels or or the Lamar Jackson. He's not going to be that type of quarterback that you want in fantasy. You want those mobile quarterbacks to get you some rushing yards and those points. But from a pocket passer standpoint, he's going to be one of the better ones to get, my personal opinion, with all those weapons. I see, barring injury, there's no reason he doesn't finish the season as the top 5 quarterback with what he has.
I'm also really interested to see what he does from a leadership perspective when it comes to Stephon Diggs, because I feel like he's a really good leader, and I feel like Stephon Diggs is our
diva.
Well, he's this generation's version of Terrell Owens, just a guy who destroys locker rooms and pisses everybody off and just generally is kind of hard to deal with. Yeah. But I feel like if anybody could kind of rein him in a little bit, it might be CJ Stroud.
I think so, but CJ's a really liked guy around the league, and you saw like there's this one game where he went off in fantasy, and I think it went to overtime, that comeback win, and you saw like his poise. You saw like him calming down the team and just getting his team to that win. That was awesome to see. He's probably my favorite player to watch.
He seems like a good dude.
Yeah, he really does.
Mm-hmm.
He seems like an awesome dude, and I I love watching the Texans. Like last year, seeing him throw it down the field to Tank Dell and Nico Collins, and them just popping off. Like both receivers were popping off. Like, man, that was awesome to see. I'm pumped about Stephon Diggs being on the team. Just another target. Yeah, it worries me a little bit because Stephon Diggs is a diva. If you're watching, you're a diva. End of the day, he is. Like Josh Allen was in an interview the other day, and they asked, "Do you miss Stephon Diggs?" And no, he does not. He does not miss him training camp. Like them on a personal level, yeah, maybe they're cool because they were like best friends for a time, but dude just causes drama. He's I I think this year's gonna be better because they signed him to just a 1-year deal. So like, hey, play it out with us, then you can go and get whatever contract you want elsewhere or stay here if you love it. So I'm hoping that like lights a fire under his ass, honestly, so he performs because dude was a stud beginning of the season. Then, like I talked about last week, dude fell off last season. Like he killed people's fantasy teams. The fact that you are in leading up to the fantasy playoffs and you can't even start your wide receiver one, like man. So that worries me. But when it comes back to CJ Stroud, I'm pumped about him. I'm pumped about the targets he has. I'm pumped about the team. They're gonna be a really good team. I just hope they don't pull a Cleveland Browns. Cleveland Browns, they had Baker Mayfield, they had OBJ, they had Jarvis Landry. I think was it Njoku at the time, or maybe I don't know, some other tight end at the time. Like they had one of these like teams, like oh man, superstar team, they're gonna go crazy. They freaking sucked. So I'm hoping they don't like. I hope they live up to the hype. But we'll see. But coming down to it, he's my locked and loaded pick. I'm really pumped to have him on my teams this year.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I think CJ Stroud is probably going to be. I think you're starting to see Jalen Hurts start to slow down a little bit. Josh Allen is not going to be the same, the amount of weapons that he has. Pat Mahomes, we have no idea what he's going to be, honestly, just because last year was kind of an outlier. But I think CJ Stroud, if you're looking for him and Lamar, if you're looking for reliability and consistency from week to week, I think those are going to be your two go-to players. I really like CJ Stroud last year, and I think he only gets better with time. Also, too, now they kept the same coaching staff. That's going to be important. He's got a lot of trust with his offensive coordinator. That's something that you see with rookie QBs once they kind of settle into that offense and that offensive scheme, start being able to call more audibles at the line. I think we're going to see huge things out of him, and especially in a keeper league. I think looking at him as a long-term option, even over a Mahomes, is definitely you got to ponder that. You gotta put that out.
Definitely, for sure. Well, hey, let's move on to our next segment here. Just kind of breaking down some people we handpicked for some rookie quarterbacks we're excited about that we saw in the first preseason game. I'm just going to kind of name the 3 that we're going to talk about, and we'll just kind of go through it. We got Caleb Williams. Is he going to live up to the hype? Dude was apparently going to, he has that Trevor Lawrence hype, one of the best quarterbacks to ever come out of college. Like, is he going to live up to that? You have Jayden Daniels, who was arguably the best college football player last year with LSU. Then you have Bo Nix, old dude, but threw for all these yards. He had practically a perfect passer rating, and touchdown interception ratio was crazy with Oregon. And he's older, gone around the block, but he kind of has that perfect fit with the Denver Broncos. So, even though I'm a Chiefs fan, I'm excited to have a little bit more competition, and Bo Nix, did look good. So, Ben, let's kind of start it off. You're a Broncos fan. You obviously watched the game with Bo Nix. How was he? What do you think what he's done and shown you so far, and just what he showed you in college? Like, how's that translate to fantasy football?
Man, it just watching him, and it's hard because as a Broncos fan, I've seen it so many freaking years, man. We've been on the carousel for so long, and I'm trying to hold out, and it's that little glimmer of hope is starting to creep back up, and I'm doing everything I can to just like No, not yet. Like, there's not enough film on him. We haven't seen him like do it enough times to like really get excited about it. But in terms of in terms of where he was compared to where the experts thought he was going to be, I mean, I'm very excited about him for fantasy reasons. Maybe if you're in a 1 year type of thing, not so much. But if you're in a dynasty, I would say between him and Caleb Williams, especially now with the J.J. McCarthy news, I would say he is your go-to rookie quarterback that you want to be drafting. Either him or if Caleb Williams is off the board, I would not have a problem drafting Bo Nix. I mean, looking at just breaking down some of his stats for you guys, he came in, Jared Stidham had the first drive, threw an interception, but to be fair, that was not his fault. If you go back and watch it, Samaje Perine literally bobbled the ball like 7 times before it got picked off. So not putting that on Jared
Whatever
Stidham.
happened to him, man? He used to be the pass catcher. Like, he was supposed to be one of the good pass catching running backs.
And he was pretty solid with us last year, but that play, I was just like, come on, man. Like, you got like 8 rookies behind you. But looking at Bo Nix's stats, though, he led 5 drives. Of those 5 drives, he scored on every single one of them except for one. And they would have scored on that drive, too. They were on like the 20-yard line, and the tight end fumbled the ball. But he led, out of 5 drives, he led 2 touchdowns, and then 2 field goals, and then 1 fumble. But, I mean, being honest, he was 15 for 21, 125 yards, 1 touchdown. And, I mean, I know you guys haven't seen it, but you'll have to go and look at the tape. But all of the things that Russ was struggling last year with those offense, Bo Nix has down. He senses the pocket, the danger in the pocket. He doesn't sit there. He gets the ball out early, and if he doesn't get out, he gets out of the pocket and picks it up with his legs. He also had 17 yards rushing on the ground. And this was like he had, and I should have said this at the beginning, he played with the starting lineup, his starting wide receivers and offensive line for 1 drive. And besides that, it was the second team and the third team. So not only are you able to move the ball down the field with the starters, you're able to show that you can do it with a bunch of rookies. Like, he was throwing to Marvin Mims and Devon Vele, a bunch of rookie wide receivers that we just drafted. Well, Marvin Mims, second-year player, but, young guy. If you can do that with them, when those guys like Tim Patrick and Cortland Sutton are also at your disposal, it very much excites me for a young quarterback that can actually follow Sean Payton's offense. And he kind of got a weird little Drew Brees comparison. I don't see that as much. He looks like Tua in the pocket. That's my comp. That was his comp going in, but he does excite me quite a bit as a Broncos fan, more so than fantasy. But we'll see. The tape is still out on him. I think he needs a couple more weeks in preseason to prove it, and maybe week 1 or 2 start him against Seattle and Pittsburgh and see how he does. But I think you're right, Jay Marsh. I think he's going to bring a lot of competition to the AFC West.
Yeah. I mean, I think, I thought the same things. When he was drafted, everyone's like, man, this is literally like a Sean Payton type quarterback. He's that people, compared him to the Drew Brees type of quarterback. He was, and I think it really benefited him to be in college football for as long as he was. I think, like 7 years, something like that. Like, I think that benefits him because he's a guy that can come in and he has the experience and he's mature. He's mature in the pocket. He knows what he's doing, and I think he does fit with that offense well. Time will tell, obviously. Broncos seem to always mess things up. So I hope, like I said, I'm a Chiefs fan, but like I want competition in our division. So I think, and it just makes games more exciting. And when games are more exciting and teams are doing better, that helps all of us for fantasy. So I'm excited to see him play more in the season, whether it's week 2, week 3, week 4. I think he is going to get a chance because I don't think Jared Stidham's going to last long as a starter.
No.
You've seen what he's done
Wilson,
before.
I mean,
nothing. Hey, Zach Wilson, baby, watch your moms. So cool. Well, yeah, I'm excited to see. We'll talk about week 2, week 3 later on in the future episodes, and let's kind of see, how he's holding up against playing against first team defenses rather than, the second and third team. See, how good he is. But Andrew, let's hear about yours. I know you had wanted to talk a little bit more about Caleb Williams, his hype like I mentioned, kind of beginning, is he going to live up to the hype of being one of the best prospects ever? Is he the next Patrick Mahomes?
He's not. That's that. He's not the next
Yes,
Patrick Mahomes.
he's not, and no one could compare to Patrick Mahomes. People keep trying to compare to him. They're not. No one's like him. Fantasy wise, can he be like a Patrick Mahomes? Fantasy wise, yeah, for sure. I think he has that ability.
Yeah, I feel good about like what we saw, not just with him, but with all the rookie QBs. But I'm also trying to like temper my expectations in general and trying to chill because honestly, like it was really great to see so much good rookie quarterback play. Because honestly, this league has made quarterback like the position way too easy. And we have not really seen a whole lot of good quarterbacks in the past 5 years. Like we've got this S tier, and then we've got a bunch of trash underneath it. And I'm really excited to see like an S tier and an A tier and a B tier. Like
I feel like you have the S tier. You have Mahomes. I think you can throw Lamar Jackson into that. Yeah,
Burrow.
Does he win Super Bowls? No, but Burrow, you can throw him into that when Burrow is healthy. That's a hard part. Josh Allen, those are those S tier. Those are the top quarterbacks of the league, and they're going to be like that for a long time. But then I don't even think there's an A tier. I think it goes them, and then just a bunch of average dudes like the Kirk Cousins type, the
Brock Purdy,
Trevor Lawrence. Like Trevor Lawrence was supposed to be this next big thing. Like you just keep having these quarterbacks come from Alabama and LSU and Clemson and Georgia, all these guys that, oh, they're going to be the next big thing. They're going to be the next top quarterback. And nobody the past, like you said, like past 5 years since like Josh Allen, Lamar, and Mahomes have been in has really lived up to that. Burrow had some good times, but he always gets injured. He got injured his rookie season. He got injured last year, and he's not someone I trust. So, Caleb Williams, keep going more into that, Andrew. I just want to kind of hear your thoughts on, like you said, he could be that S tier maybe.
Yeah, I think he actually could be. And like I said, I'm trying to not overreact, but what I try to watch when I watch any quarterback that I don't really like have a ton of familiarity with as far as like how good or bad they actually are is like how they're reading the field. And what was really impressive about him, just not only pocket presence, but he had like a sense of calm about him, even when like the rush was coming. And he had a tendency to go through all of his reads and then come back to his first read. Like if you guys, I don't know if you guys saw that one pass to, I think it was DJ Moore on the sideline. I mean, he threaded the needle on this pass, but not only did he do that, I'm pretty sure that DJ Moore was his first read, and then he went through his secondary, his third, his fourth, and then he went back to DJ Moore. So he's reading the coverage, and he's reading all of the receivers before he makes that throw. I feel like that's a really good sign of like a really smart and talented quarterback, because I think like the big thing for me when these guys come out of college is like, yeah, I mean, but like how good are they going to be when it comes to reading something like a cover 3 shell that moves to cover 6, or like cover 0 that moves to cover 2? Like that's something that they either didn't see in college, or they didn't see it executed well in college. And I think he passed that first test for me. Now, as to whether or not he's going to be really truly one of those S tier guys, like we're going to have to wait a lot longer before we get to see that. But this was a good first test.
Yeah, and time will tell. There's a lot of, Caleb Williams. I think that's awesome. Like you mentioned, he went through all of his reads. A lot of times you see these rookie quarterbacks, they're still their first read. That's it. Like, and then
or they're staring down.
Yeah, they're staring them down. Like you wonder why they're not successful. Well, that's exactly why. So seeing that he's already doing that just in preseason is great to hear. But like honestly, with rookie quarterbacks, I'm not in on any of them in fantasy this year. I think all these Jayden Daniels might be the only one I personally am invested in this year, and I'll talk to that because that's going to be my part. But with Caleb Williams, I just think these guys they need to prove it to me. I think maybe later on in the season, maybe like week 8 and something. Let's see. Okay, maybe they're having a good season. Okay, at that point, I'd be willing to maybe pick them up. But I'm just not a big fan of rookie quarterbacks because most of the time they don't do good late, especially like you said, the last 5 years they haven't. CJ Stroud was like the diamond. CJ Stroud and Joe Burrow were like the two that's like, oh wow, they actually did something in their rookie year. So like that's why it's hard for me to be like, oh, am I going to take Caleb Williams or Jayden Daniels in the 8th round, or would I rather just get CJ Stroud or Joe Burrow or one of these guys in the 5th round? I'd rather get something that I know is secure to pick. But I think it is good to see that they are progressing and they are looking good so far to where it makes me more inclined to potentially at least look their way during the draft. Cool. Well, let's go on the last quarterback here. Another kind of big hyped quarterback, not as much as Caleb Williams, but Jayden Daniels. Like I mentioned, he had the best season last year. He was better than Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams honestly was really bad last year in college. But Jayden Daniels, man, he's on the Commanders. Yeah, he's on the Commanders. So that's the kind of hard part. He's one of those quarterbacks like you get placed on this crappy team. It's like, man, like this dude is a good quarterback, at least in college. Like, is this going to translate? I think it might. I really do think it might, just because he's one of those quarterbacks kind of like those Lamar Jacksons and those Josh Allen's. Like, this dude is mobile. He's, he had a 3-yard touchdown run in the preseason. He didn't throw a lot, but he had a 42-yard pass, went 2 for 3. So not a lot to honestly analyze. Wasn't enough, but we'll see it in week 2 and week 3. He's already been named the starter, so that's great. So when you are drafting in the fantasy season, he is someone you can confidently pick and be like, hey, he's a starter week 1. I'm not taking a risk of waiting 5 weeks for him to actually be named the starter. So that's exciting to me for him. But like I mentioned, I think I need to see more from him in preseason and in camp and see what he's actually made of. And gosh, like on that team, like who do they have? Like I'm thinking of the Commanders. I don't really want any of the Commanders. Scary Terry is the only guy, like, and Martavis Bryant, baby. Like those are the only ones that like I really know of. And then their running back room is just a mess.
All young. They're all
got
young.
Brian Robinson, and but Brian Robinson could turn out to be something. I like that tight end that they drafted. I can't remember his name, Ben something, I think. But I mean, they don't really have anybody.
Yeah, so we'll see what he does with, end of the day, good quarterbacks can make bad receivers and bad players better. You saw Mahomes make MVS look like a superstar in the playoffs. You saw, he tried his best with Kadarius Toney, but no one can make him look good, unfortunately. Not even Daniel Jones.
He's got a couple targets looking at their roster. He's got Scary Terry, Jahan Dotson. He's okay, I think.
I do like Dotson.
And
last
then
season was disappointing.
I mean, we don't know. Family proven, both gonna be. Let's be honest. CMC is gonna be a Hall of Famer, and his dad played for the Broncos, Ed McCaffrey. But little brother Luke, and he looks. I think he's gonna shock a lot of people. I think he's gonna be kind of a Julian Edelman type. For him.
I honestly forgot that he was on the Commanders, Luke McCaffrey, because I was reading some reports, this is like a month ago, where like Luke McCaffrey and Jayden Daniels are the first guys in the building, the last ones out. They were working really well together. They already have chemistry. So like that's exciting. But it's kind of going back to like rookie wide receivers and rookie quarterbacks. Like how does that like into this fantasy football? How does this translate to fantasy? I'm not bought into any of them yet, but I am excited to see because Jayden Daniels is an exciting player to watch. So we'll kind of see. Like I said, when it comes to draft season, Caleb Williams, Jayden Daniels are the only quarterbacks I'd be confident in actually picking because they are already named the starters. So they're going to play at least, and then you can go from there compared to the other guys. But the other guys might be safer because you can pick the Drake Mays and the Joe Miltons and stuff in the very last round, hold on to them, and they get named the starter. They start popping off, and man, you got an awesome pick. And if you're in a keeper league, that's amazing. That's me with CJ Stroud. So we'll kind of go, we'll play it by ear, kind of see how the next few weeks look like for them.
Well, Jay Marshall, I will tell you confidently, real quick, that if Jared Stidham is our quarterback week 1, I will jump out the freaking window. It better be Bo Nix, because I can't do it anymore, man. I don't care if he's not great. I just want to see him just be decent, be better than Russ last year. Just please get us off the carousel. Bo leave, baby.
Yeah, we shall see. I'm pumped for, man, this is like the best time. I'm kind of going in like, honestly, all of our final thoughts before this episode's over. But man, I'm talking about fantasy and doing mock drafts, and fantasy season's fast approaching. You know, the end of preseason, I think, is on the 25th is the last preseason game. Drafts are going to start happening those final few weeks. Like, we're approaching, like, this is important time for all of us, for the community, for anyone playing fantasy football for the first time, for the 30th time. Like, this is exciting time of the year. Football's almost here permanently. Like, preseason, honestly, I never watched preseason. I don't really care too much. But regular season's approaching. The Chiefs kicking it off on September 5th against the Ravens. That's going to be awesome way to start the season. So I'm really pumped about that. Just kind of going into, next week, we're going to be going over playoff predictions. What teams do we think are going to make the playoffs? And that typically is going to translate to fantasy. Teams don't just make the playoffs with below average players. They have players that step up, that they get catches, they get touchdowns, they do what's needed. So what teams are our predictions are going to go to the playoffs? Those are going to be probably some good teams that you want some parts of. What players to avoid? There's a lot of players that either have injury history, they had 18 touchdowns last year, and and I'm chasing after that guy, but he's not going to get 18 this year. You don't see that happen often, people getting that many touchdowns 2 years in a row. So what players are we going to avoid? So we're going to each go over a few players that we personally are going to avoid and reasoning behind it. And also we're going to do a little crazy mock draft, not the typical mock draft that you're used to. So I'm excited to host that mock draft with both Andrew and Ben, picking at, opposite ends of the spectrum and kind of seeing how that goes. But before we go here, you guys have any final thoughts?
Well, what you just said got me hyped, man. I'm looking forward to this. And honestly, I don't watch preseason either, but I did turn on a few of the games just because they're playing a lot more starters now than they did last few seasons, just because of the shorter schedule in preseason, which is also great, by the way, for any season ticket holders out there, because we used to beat, my family had season ticket holders when the Rams were still in town, and they make you buy those tickets for full price regardless of whether or not you want them. So it's better to have 3 than 4. But that being said, I'm just really excited for the season, and it was just great to see football again. Like, I know it's not the same as the regular season, but I don't know, just like seeing the guys out on the field again, it's got me hyped.
Yeah, man, football season. Yeah, I live by 3 things: family, faith, fantasy football. That's only 3 things that matter, baby. Like, I'm pumped. Like,
that's a great way to go out.
I watch every Thursday night game, every Sunday night game, every Monday night game, and I try to watch as many Sunday games as I possibly can. So I'm pumped. I love having all my fantasy rosters open on my computer monitors, watching that throughout the day. Just, man, fantasy is one of the coolest things because you can be a fan of so many different teams. Like, I'm a fan of the Chiefs, but when I'm playing fantasy, I'm a fan of all teams, and it gets people to watch football, not just their teams. It gets them to watch all games, and it's man, I'm getting chills. It's one of the coolest things possible. Like, getting people of all ages. Like, I'm in a church group, and we're doing a fantasy league, and we have a kid that's one of my friend's sons. He's just a freshman in high school. He's never done fantasy before. Last year was his first year with me. He's never done it before, and it gets exposure to the younger age groups and just really gets them bought in because it's such a awesome thing. Like, when you grow old and you don't get to play sports anymore, like, this is our freaking Friday Night Lights. Like, this is it for us as adults, and it's one of the coolest things ever. And I'm pumped, man. But with that, we're gonna kick it off for the rest of the night. We're gonna be back here next week going over everything I just mentioned, and shoot us a follow. Follow us on TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, and X. Follow us there. We're going to be posting a lot of content and just really giving our thoughts. So we will see you all next week.